Hello there, long time no see. I'll make this a quickie. Ever since I had the privilege to get involved in intelligence research back in the mid to late 60s, I have been fascinated by a term for which I have never found a satisfactory explanation for its cause: collective intelligence, or if you prefer, collective stupidity. You see, wouldn't you assume that a collective consisting of people whose IQ is mixed, some as high as 120, others as low as 80, should have an average of, say, 98 or 102? Of course, that is bullcrap. If you followed my earlier clips, you know that in the mid-60s I discovered that a human IQ has little, if anything, to do with genetics. Rather, it is determined solely by exposure to challenging intellectual stimuli and can be increased at any time, even into old age, by such an exposure to any degree desired. It took intelligence researchers over 30 years to accept that discovery, which today is the standard. In turn, the opposite is the Lange-Lehr syndrome, named after two scientists at the University of Erlangen, Germany, who discovered that if you, as many of us do, never expose yourself to intellectual stimulation, your IQ quickly falls way below 100. The typical situation, for example, is the case of hospitalization. Eventually, the mental collapse can lead to dementia, especially in people of older age. So now, what happens to a collective if the majority of a group of people never even uses its intellectual capabilities, never bothers to analyze information provided by the media, by interest groups, or during an election? Take Florida as an example. Indeed, what puzzles me is the current reaction of the public in the context of the election, the reaction to the flood of misinformation inundating us, information that on its face should be recognized as being false. I would say we do have a case of collective dementia, a profound inability to analyze anything, let alone recognize the danger to the members of the group. Take the case of healthcare, or the lack thereof, aptly named by Florida Congressman Grayson as Holocaust, leaving more than 30 million without health insurance. Oops, I shouldn't have said that. Florida's elders gave the guy who wanted to make sure that all have access to healthcare and who fought against foreclosures the pink slip. They fired him. But let me give you a few more examples. You may or may not remember the Bush years, following 8 years of Bill Clinton. For some specific reason I didn't like Bill Clinton very much, but he was one of the few presidents, if any, who managed to obtain a budget surplus. In turn, George W. Bush came into office and 10 days later held a conference in which he declared Saddam Hussein needed to go. That was 9 months before 9/11 and a few days after he had a meeting with oil executives. Remember?
We cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun, that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and...
Simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Sure enough, he started a war with Iraq, absent provocation, that killed thousands of our own kids and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians. But at least it ended with oil companies getting licenses to explore oil in Iraq. Do you remember how under his and Dick Cheney's regime, people, including innocent people, were tortured? No, not waterboarded. They were tortured to obtain confessions for acts most never committed. Remember, 675 or 700 people were released from Guantanamo without ever having been charged, but held for many, many years?
This government does not torture people.
Of course, Supreme Court Justice Scalia thinks it would be tricky to define torture.
I don't like torture, although defining it is going to be a nice trick.
Let me help him a little. How about killing? How about tasing? How about more beatings? How about even more beatings? Of course, according to Scalia, not everything odious is against the Constitution.
We have a law against torture, but if everything that is hateful and odious is not covered by some provision of the Constitution.
Bush in turn misspoke.
The techniques that we use have been fully disclosed to appropriate members of the United States Congress.
In turn, Dick Cheney says,
I would absolutely do it again, Bob.
Here is some more history. Under Bush's economic policies, hundreds of thousands of jobs were outsourced to China and other low labor cost countries. Jobs that have not been and will not be filled by Americans, lost forever, much to the satisfaction of the Chamber of Commerce and big corporations. Indeed, the total loss of jobs to China alone has reached nearly 2.5 million. That is China alone, never mind other low labor cost countries like India or you name it. These outsourced jobs led to a significant loss in domestic purchase power, a loss in demand for US products, which in turn led to even more layoffs across the nation. And if you believe that this problem can be solved easily, dream on. Big corporations have decided that it is cheaper to manufacture in or buy from China, Korea, India, or wherever instead of manufacturing it here. Therefore, and I hate to tell you this, as to high unemployment, we are in for a long haul. And no, it is not Obama's fault. You cannot recover in 2 years labor that has been exported for 10 years due to a faulty economic policy. I could go on for another half hour, but I think you get my drift. Now, are you telling me that the people who voted did not remember this? Well, actually, the inability to remember is one key factor in dementia. I think here we talk about collective dementia. Oh, something else. In Denver, 84% voted against a law forming a state commission on extraterrestrial UFO communication. Are you kidding me? How could they? Talking about dementia. On a different subject, if you need a job and are skilled, let's say in information technology, Germany is in need of skilled immigrants. Relax. Over 60% of Germans and at least 80% of managers speak English. Go Google Deutschland, Stellenangebote, information technology, and voila, up comes, among others, Reuters Career Center, which as of today shows some 1,630 open positions. Go for it. Click on pause if you need to look at it longer. Meanwhile, Baghdad Bob Boner will waste your money by attempting to repeal healthcare. Back to the Holocaust, as Grayson put it, for 30 million, only to face, of course, a veto by the president. While Mitch McConnell will make sure that Obama is a one-term president. Nothing else is important, of course. Nothing. Really? See ya.